the patch version matches the game version. And welcome to Interstellar Rift, guys. I was just stating that about the patch version because there's been a significant change in the last few patches that drastically affected how power worked. Back in the day, I would simply have ships. In fact, I can show you through the editor. My ships would basically I don't have every one of my ships here, but we'll go with the Freightliner 8. My ships would consist of a lot of solar panels, basically, and I would put them in a way that I could fit a lot more on, because I would have all systems, and it will take a while, all systems powered as through these. Back in the day, these 2x2 was worth 4 units of power each, and the other ones was worth 2 or 3, maybe 2.5. I think it was 2 back in the day, the half blocks. So there was back then a lot of power generation on board this ship, but they've changed that recently. And I mean, I can still make this ship very functional, and with new ways I wouldn't need as many solar panels. I just like the way they looks, but it does add to the overall cost, and more importantly affects the weight of the ship. But as you can see, the ship isn't really too slow, but then it has got the big Titan thrusters on board, so it's actually quite fast because of that. Well, it's actually slow because of that, because these are so expensive. If I took a lot of them solar panels off, this ship would get much faster, and I could have probably gone with just one of these Titans either side, drastically reducing the overall cost of the ship to build from an aluminium perspective. Anyway, we'll jump into a new ship design. Why did I do that? New ship design. So I always start off with, if I'm going to build a basic ship, because I know for a fact it's going to be a small ship, I always start off with the bridge, and then I do like this cockpit, if it lets me select it, but I'm not going to use that one for this ship. I'm going to use this one because it's easier for the co-pilot to jump on to the seat. Next, I'm going to do a cargo hold, and it's up to you how big you want your cargo hold. For a basic ship, you know, you could easily get away with a cargo hold of so big, but where's the fun in having that much of a small ship? Then I'm going to name that as well. Then I want an arrival, and then I will want, oh, of course, I've got to have at least one block with that in, and then I'm going to want engineering, and I'm going to put engineering probably like this. And arrivals will do, yeah, actually like that. Right, next, before I go anywhere else, I'm going to go into groups. I don't normally rename the default group, but I'm going to for this particular one. and then I'm going to make life support. Now your first ship tends to be literally very much a basic ship. I'll leave it on life support for now because I'm going to add the doors. I tend to have doors, teleporter and lights and oxygen generator and air vents all tied to the life support. Basic, very basic systems, and obviously life support is going to include the oxygen and air vents, but everything else including terminals, because currently terminals I do believe don't take up any power, but they in a future update they might require power when in use, or they might have a consistent drain on the system, so having them already set up for a group that doesn't require too much, isn't going to drain your system of fuel, because you've got them tied to a group that requires mostly hydrogen, for example. Now, as you can see, we've got different doors. Each one has a different value of requirements. It's up to you on design, and they all, apart from the double door, all of them are exactly the same weight, 200. In fact, that's the one thing I don't like about this, is the weight of things. Everything seems to weigh far too much. I mean, a plant weighs as much as a statue. It's like just doesn't make sense how much certain things can weigh. And because this ship is going to basically only need 3 doors, one to the engineering, one to the arrivals, and one to the bridge. Next we're going to look at adding the air vents and life support. So first off we'll go with life support, and we're going to put that up here. Next we want air vents. Again, up to you how you want it. Take a note of the costs of them now. I tend to use this one a lot in my bigger ships. If you don't want the hit on copper though, you can go with a floor or ceiling fan. I'm going to go with the wall and put these put one there, I guess, and one there. And that's all the air vents done. Now we need a teleporter, and we need a respawn point. You don't have to put a respawn point on board your ship, but you do have to have a teleporter, because obviously you can't just, it's not like Space Engineers where you can hop out your ship and float to, use your jetpack to fly to the station. This is the only method of transportation between station and ship. Respawn point, as I said, you don't need to have it. I always have one, because you could be boarding a station that's under attack, doing the dash to hope that you can offload your the resources that you picked up for doing a mission before the station blows up. The station blows up while you're on it and you die. You can't respawn on board your ship. You have to respawn at a starter station, and you've lost your ship. And the idea with this being a basic ship is that it's quick to build. It's not going to cost you too much. So trying to keep down on copper and everything as much as possible is key. We will also add in 2 of these and a battery, and that will be it for life support for now. Oh no, with the gain I want a terminal. We'll put a terminal either side here, and then because that will all be used up in here, we'll put the wall terminal. And then obviously lights. And if we turn the lights off, we'll be able to see more clearly. Lights also have their benefit factors of values, so we'll go with the cheaper light system. It's up to you how you want to do your lights. I'm just leaving one gap between each. I'm not going to put one in here because I prefer this actually being quite dark. So very basic design. Now we can switch over to main group. No, we forgot one more thing. We want at least a engine, a generator within this group. Now we can switch over to the main group, and while we're on doing all the generators, we may as well throw these in. Is it worth putting one of these down? This is entirely up to you if you wish. I'm going to add one because they help with shields a bit better. If you don't mind taking the hit from them, from their, 75 silicon isn't that bad. Already up to 2.1k on copper though. But they ain't the big ones. Steel is one of the pain in the ass resources to get. I'm going to actually leave this one empty because I want a cargo pad there. And then I'm going to put the tanks, 2 tanks, one either side, and turn the lights off, up the in-game lights back on, so that we can see more clearly. And everything obviously has its own weight value. Weirdly, the batteries actually weigh more than the generators, which is kind of funny. And the capacitors weigh half the, in fact less than half of the weight of a normal battery. Again, some things I don't understand why they've done it like that. And we're going to throw quite a few cargo pads in. In fact, we don't want them. We'll do it like that, I think. We do want shields on board the ship. I was already facing the correct way. So we've got 2 shield generators. Each one of these now offers 1,000. Have they updated the systems yet? Nope, it still says they provide 600, but it actually requires only, it now produces up to 1,000 shield hit points per shield bay. And this is entirely up to you. I like to put 1 cargo pad by anything I have, so if there's an ammo load out there, I would have a cargo pad. Because it's a basic ship, this ship will be an unarmed ship. The other thing I'm going to add is the disposal unit, and you should always have at least one of these on every ship. And the reason being is if you come across any debris in space, you can pick it up. A ship that's been destroyed or anything, you can start picking it up and collecting effectively free resources. This one is critical because this is an unarmed ship, and you go to a station, if you've got any defensive turrets, you can throw them out here and they'll start defending you and the station, or anything that's within there. They'll defend they'll defend you from the Skrill and the pirates. So this is why I like to have a pad next to them, so I can just stack up defensive drones on land pads, which you can find freely on stations, or you can go to one of the stations with the 3D printer and assembler bays and all that, and build them if you've got the resources. Now for the power generation on this ship, on this group, I'm just going to put one capacitor because we've got the large one, and 2 batteries, and we'll check the power groups and see how that's looking. The main group actually has a higher drain than the power generation. I'm not too concerned about that, and this doesn't matter too much either because the batteries have a 1000 drain. So if we actually just disable the batteries, as you can see, it's not that big of a deal, and that's the drain on the system normal and with the batteries enabled. So like I said, not that big of a deal, but there you go, there's your basic ship. Some people might put a transponder in, and you could do it. I mean, you could throw a transponder somewhere, you could put one here, or a lot of people tend to put them on the bridge for their basic designs. You could put absolutely throw it in there. It's so you can issue basically distress calls, broadcast your position, etc. I'm not too fussed about that being on board this ship, plus it helps with the weight and the cost, because we're going to be spending some in other places. Now I do tend to colour my stuff because I don't like the systems to be of a particular, I like things to just look different. And for the capacitor, no. In fact, we could leave it that colour. And the floor will go with this. And to tidy that up, I'm going to use these. These don't cost you anything on resources. Well, they do a little bit of iron, but which is kind of funny, but we won't. The devs like you to spend resources on things that don't make sense, but I mean, how's adding colours to your flooring going to cause you to spend iron? But whatever. It just smartens it up a bit more between, as you can see, and without the lights on. And it's like a guiding path. Don't cross the line kind of thing. No, I'm joking. It just breaks up the centre of the cargo room and adds a bit of character to the ship. You don't have to do this part either. A basic ship should be as basic as you can get it, but I don't like bare walls, and I want my cargo bay to look like that, that to look like that. We will be changing the colours, don't worry. Why not? And we can't do anything in here because we've already got already used both walls up. So now we'll change the colours and we'll go with engineering looking like that. No. Facts, what about that one? Yep, that one will be fine. It just, again, adds a bit more character to your ship. But there you go. That's the interior all done. Now, if this was my own ship that I was actually building for myself, I would be going and adding these. But as you can see, 50 on a weight and an additional 20 iron for each one that you place. So there's 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300 and so on. And then it's 20 iron for each one, in which in this case is 120 iron. And that's, it soon mounts up. But I'd be adding these and they'd be going like so, basically just a box around them, just to break it all up and make it look nicer. But basic ship, you don't have to. In fact, you don't have to for any ship. Now for the exterior, you've got different types of engines. Fiddle around, see which one's going to give you a good hit. 30, that isn't going to give you enough power. Now this ship isn't going to be fast, obviously. 182 meters per second, that will actually get slower than that. And which group are we even on? We're on the wrong group. Clever. Let's just bring them back to that group. That's all looking good. Yep. Okay. In fact, we will stay on life support in a minute, because we're going to add in solar panels for life support. So that it can generate some power on its own. And I think we'll do that, should be enough for that one. And then main group, and you could throw all of the solar panels on life support if you want. It's entirely up to you. You don't even have to put solar panels on. Again, it's entirely up to you, but if you don't put any solar panels on, you will consume a bit more hydrogen than normal, because you've got no nothing producing anything to reduce the overall cost. So there's our basic ship. Looks okay, because this is not a mining vessel, it's a cargo hauler. We don't need any detection facilities on here at these antennas or sensor arrays. Now we'll another thing that you don't need to do is tidy up the exterior, give it any shape. There's no aerodynamics that are going to affect you in this game, so it's not like a plane or something on a planet, or in Space Engineers, the philosophy of trying to make an aerodynamic ship. You know. Oh, bummer. So the basis of this is just keep it simple, and why you definitely should go with a basic ship early on instead of trying to build a mammoth of a ship is you will lose ships. If you're in a public server, you could be destroyed, and we know how fun that is not. If you're in a solo mode, you will be destroyed at some point because of you'll crash into a planet, which is a bit harder to do these days, but it's still possible. And you'll be surprised how easy it is actually to do. And I guarantee you will do it. Everybody's done it, and everybody will do it a few more times. And anyone who says they haven't crashed into a planet are definitely blatantly lying. As of the time when this video went up, because in future patches it might even be made easier. So that's that part almost done. We will just tidy up the corners now. Make it a bit more slip-lined, slip-lined, streamlined. Now, the fun part, modelling. All of this in. Okay. I've missed this part out, which was clever. Like I said, you don't need to do that. You could have just carried on as it was, and we're just increasing the cost of the ship. But at the same time, if you look, obviously it's increasing the weight, but the armor value's going up, which is something I want to increase a little bit. It's not a terrible idea to have some armor value. Now, it's up to you how you want to design this part. I'm just going with as simple as possible design, and we're not going to do that obviously, because we're going to end up blocking the window up, but we will have alternative ways of fixing that part. And yeah, why not, may as well. We'll actually incorporate the bottom of this ship in a bit better. In fact, we'll leave them open, because then I'll be able to see where I can put some thrusters. So, there we go. It's not as ugly as it was. It's still ugly, but it's not as ugly. We're definitely getting there. We'll put these thrusters in there, we may as well. Otherwise I'll forget. It's still nowhere near enough thrusters for this ship, but it's a start. We'll get another one there. do the bottom part of this. There we go. In fact, we won't have that like that. We will use one of these. Yeah, that looks better. Let's see what else we've got that we can use around the hull, around the main ship. The problem with these is there's no blocks that can fit in there. Oh well. I think I'd rather have it look like that than without them. So there we go. Basic ship. Unfortunately nothing to put into these corners. As you can see, they would overlap and then it'd look even worse. And we could have gone like that, I guess. I don't think we could put one of these here without blocking. No, it'd block the window up. And we could change the cockpit and have the fighter style cockpit, which all of this would fit in a bit better, but what's the point? So we won't do that. So what I don't get is that they actually do give you some bits, but they don't give you all the bits that you need to finish off this area. I don't get why that's the case. It'd have been nice to be able to do that. But as you can see, it's a squared bottom base, so we couldn't actually do that. So there we go, our basic ship. Turn rates are okay. If we wanted to add a bit more turning size, a bit more to the max turn rate, it's okay. I'm very tired, so you'll have to excuse that. But if I wanted to do that, I could easily make an adjustment somewhere here, or pop out one of these solar panels either side and just throw in. In fact, I probably will do that, just because fortunately the half solar panels only come in one way, one design. But there you go, our basic ship. Less than it's less than 26k iron, less than just over 6k iron copper. We could have got rid of this. We wouldn't be using silicon had we not gone with did we go with that had to use for? Oh, the capacitor. We could have just added more of the smaller capacitors, but shields rely on capacitors, and for definite for charging, this would give a big boost to charging them. How good they are with small shields, I don't know. That's something that needs to be tested. And I want those consoles to maybe stand out a bit more clearly. So we will. That one I'm not so fussed about, but definitely the two main consoles. But there you have it, guys. Small basic ship. Name it whatever you want. Cheap enough to build. You could definitely reduce the copper by not having any solar panels, as long as you are willing to throw fuel consistently within these tanks. But you have you could put one oxygen case on here and then fill the rest of the pallet up with fuel. Have a couple of these pallets full of fuel, so then you've got plenty of fuel to do them long hauls if you're going on a long haul. Overall, this ship shouldn't be too thirsty on fuel. It should be quite efficient. The life support should generate up and shouldn't require any additional hydrogen apart. The hydrogen will get used to help charge them batteries, but once the battery's charged, the only time you'll use power is when you teleport or respawn, and that's because of the sudden discharge from the capacitors. But other than that, you won't use any power from life support. I mean, you wouldn't even realistically need a battery for life support, but I like to have a bit of power on hand should something go wrong, should the ship get so badly damaged that the solar panels are damaged and you need to go off the ship ASAP, and you know there's the capacitors, there's no production for the power. The capacitors have already been fully discharged from maybe a respawn, well, a few respawns, quite a few respawns to be precise. Something's happened anyway, and you need to go off, and the batteries are the battery's the only thing that's got power left in it for the life support system. You can do so, and it would be it would get you off, but the teleporter would be a much more slower charging up, because it hasn't got that sudden power available to it all in one go like the capacitors offer. The capacitors dump their power all in one hit, whereas the batteries discharge their power at 300 per tick. And the teleporters, small teleporters, I think still only need, in fact they might have upped them to 1,000 now. I know they've got a range of 1,000. Yeah, peak drain is 1,000, so you know you're looking at what, just over three charges. That's a long wait if you're in a hurry to go off the ship, or maybe you're in a hurry to get, well, no, because it doesn't use power to get on board the ship. Anyway, the other thing is why I go with two tanks is you can have, each of these can hold 10,000 hydrogen each. You can top them both up, fly around, and then when one's fully depleted, you know that's when you need to start looking at bringing more fuel on board, because when the second one depletes, you aren't going anywhere very fast, and your batteries will start to, for the main group, will start being used up. So having some fuel on board as an emergency is a good idea. I tend to have one oxygen crate and a pad full of fuel on board a basic ship, and I don't try to use that pad of fuel when I get to a station after I've done a mission, if I need fuel, I'll buy it in and have it just enough just to top up the tanks. And if I don't need fuel, then I'll carry on doing more missions until I do need fuel. And then if I come to a point where I've consumed 1 tank of fuel and I haven't come to any stations that you can't purchase fuel at, and there's been no crates lying around, or can't mine any asteroids and process the water, then I will use the fuel that's on the pads or on the pad, but that's for dire emergency use only. Two shield generators will give a maximum of, as you can see, 2,000 shield hit points. As you saw in the description, it says it'll only give you 600, but from the top of the screen you can clearly see provides up to 600 shield hit points, but each one provides actually 1,000 each. I mean, just over 9.5, or just under 9,500 hit points for the armor isn't bad, although that will go very fast. But building a ship that's very cheap to build, I mean, you could have made this a lot cheaper. You wouldn't have to go with all this side nasals. You could have just gone with one streamlined hull and gone with fewer pads if you wanted. I mean, I always believe if it's a cargo ship, you should have at least 6 pads in there, and well, I think the more pads you have, the better, especially on your starter ship, because you know, you might not want to upgrade from that ship too early. You might want to stick with it for quite a while, because they tend to be very much fuel efficient, and you know, you will die. There's no question about that. You will die, new or experienced. If it's not a Skrill, it's pirates. If it's not that, then it's a planet, or it's another player, you know. So, but I hope that helped you. And before I go, actually, I will save this just to have a mess around in, and then I'll probably end up deleting it, but I'll call it tutorial ship, I guess, so then I know. And my basic ship, 25.6, 75 2.4, 37 9 2.6, and that's what I mean by slimline it, and my philosophy of at least 6 cargo pads are there, teleporter, respawn points, disposal, and salvager, 2 shield bays. This one does have weapons on, but I don't need them, and an oxygen generator console, and I'm using the floor, the floor fans, which if I used the wall fans it would be a lot cheaper. Well, not a lot cheaper, it would be a little bit cheaper. On the exterior, this is why I've got so much copper being used. It's because I've gone with more solar panels. But I could actually throw these turrets off and get rid of the loader. But because this is for a multi-crew vessel, I went with them being on there so the co-pilot could happily fire away while at our enemies. But the ship, 437 meters per second, not bad. Anyway, that's been Interstellar Rift. It's been fun, and I hope you enjoyed that. You know, that there's many unique ways of designing your starter ship. You don't have to go with how I've done it. You could go with a multi-deck. You know, you could go with a fancy design. It's entirely up to you. The editor is your freedom to create whatever you want, whatever monstrous or a ridiculous ship that you wish to do, and it's worth messing around and getting familiarising yourself with it, because you could spend many hours a day in there working on a ship, and it's a key element to the game because you can't actually design the ship outside of the editor apart. Like space engineers, you can build it on the fly. In Stellar Rift you have to use an editor, and be it in game at the ship editor console or from the main menu. The in-game ship editor, I will state though, if you're on a server, you will have the fluctuations of auto saves. I would recommend doing it on the main menu, unless you're only modifying or adding to one of your previous quick build ships or very small ships, and it's not going to take too long to do what you need. Loading a big ship into an editor, you've got a very good chance that you'll lose connection to the server. The game will crash because the game isn't as optimized as it could be for big ships, and the more cargo pads you have, the more lag you'll have. The more of anything that you have, the more lag you'll have. And I'm expecting in a future update we will start to see weight values being adjusted, plants and statues, cargo pads, batteries, etc. all being adjusted and balanced, so that we will see different ships that was perhaps considered slow being a little bit faster, ships that was heavy, big ships that was considered really heavy being that little bit faster. And the devs do need to do it, to be honest. Like I said, 50 the weight of a 50 for a plant is ridiculous, and when you consider that that's just not much more different than an engine, then yeah. But thank you so much for watching, and take care, and hope I might do another Interstellar Rift video, I might not, I'm not sure yet, but see you around.